Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is the highest rated DLC of all time. The entire history of gaming DLC and FromSoftware's first and only expansion for Elden Ring beat Witcher 3 Blood and Wine, beat all of them. It sold 5 million copies in 3 days, the fastest selling DLC ever made. By July 2025, it had reached 10 million copies. And here we are in 2026, sitting nearly 2 years after release, and people are still discovering secrets in the realm of Shadow, still debating Miquella's morality, still getting their faces melted off by the hardest bosses FromSoftware has ever created. Today, I'm breaking down why Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree doesn't just expand Elden Ring, it recontextualizes the entire story and forces you to question everything you thought you understood. The story revolves entirely around Miquella the Kind, but as the name suggests, there's far more complexity beneath that surface. In the base game, Miquella was mysterious, mentioned constantly but physically absent. You could see his withered arm hanging from a cocoon in Mogwyn Palace, abandoned after Mog kidnapped him. But the full picture, the real story, that's Shadow of the Erdtree. Miquella, desperate to save his sister Millennia from the Scarlet Rot Curse, attempted to achieve godhood through an unconventional path, entering the realm of Shadow, a land hidden beneath the Erdtree itself, to find the soul of the promised consort, who turns out to be Radahn himself. To accomplish this, he charmed Mog with supernatural allure, allowing himself to be kidnapped, all while planning his escape into the realm of Shadow. What's brilliant about this story is the moral ambiguity. Miquella is called the Kind because he genuinely wants to save people. He envisions an age of compassion where the Elden Ring's cruelty is replaced with mercy. But to achieve this, he manipulates everyone around him, enchanting his followers, using Mog's corpse as a vessel, gathering devotees who believe in him without questioning him. As you progress through the DLC, you realize everyone around Miquella has been charmed. Needle Knight Lita, Sir Ansbach, the Hornsend, all of them dedicated to Miquella for reasons they don't fully understand. Then, at a crucial moment, Miquella breaks his own charm, freeing everyone from his influence. It's a devastating revelation. Miquella the Kind is actually Miquella the Manipulator. The ending, which I won't spoil, forces you to confront whether Miquella's vision was good or monstrous. Was he a benevolent god trying to save humanity, or a tyrant using love as a tool of control? The game deliberately doesn't answer that question for you. You're left debating Miquella's morality the same way players debated Maiden of Blood's morality in the base game. Shadow of the Erdtree proves that FromSoftware understands narrative complexity in ways that most AAA developers don't.
Give Shadow of the Erdtree introduces a completely separate progression system called the Scattertree Blessing. You collect Scattertree fragments scattered throughout the realm of Shadow, 50 of them total. Each fragment you gather increases your Scattertree Blessing, providing a 4% damage increase and 2% damage reduction per level. At maximum, that's a 200% damage multiplier and 100% damage reduction increase. This system is controversial. Some players love it because it levels the playing field. If you're underleveled for the DLC, you can collect Scattertree fragments and gradually become stronger without grinding runes. Others hate it because it's a mandatory progression system that only works in the DLC, completely separate from your rune level. You could be level 300 but completely underpowered in the DLC if you don't find Scattertree fragments. The brilliant part? The fragments are optional. You don't have to collect them all, you don't have to maximize the blessing. You can attempt the DLC with 0 blessing enhancements if you're confident in your skills. This creates this beautiful gradient where every player can experience Shadow of the Erdtree at their own difficulty level. Casual players can max the blessing and enjoy the story. Hardcore players can skip it and challenge themselves. The 8 new weapon categories completely reshape build variety. New curved greatswords, colossal weapons, perfume bottles for new weapon arts, katanas with new movesets, everything feels fresh. Boss design accommodates these new tools. Some bosses are vulnerable to specific weapon types, forcing you to experiment and adapt rather than relying on one build for everything. The difficulty is noticeably higher than the base game. Bosses can kill you in 2 or 3 hits. Some fights require precision in ways that even Millennia didn't demand. FromSoftware essentially went, we made the hardest boss in gaming, now make it harder with Shadow of the Erdtree. It's not unfair, it's meticulously designed, but it demands respect.
Mesmer the Impaler, the primary antagonist, represents some of the best boss design FromSoftware has ever created. He's a towering figure, wreathed in flame, wielding a spear that erupts with fire. His attack patterns are readable but relentless. He doesn't have the broken moveset that makes him frustrating. He has a challenging but fair moveset that rewards learning. What makes Mesmer special is the narrative integration. He's not just a boss fight, he's the embodiment of the Realm of Shadow's tragedy. He purged the Horned Folk from the realm on Marika's orders, killing people who couldn't respond because they lacked grace. He's both a victim of Marika's cruelty and a perpetrator of genocide. When you defeat him, you're not celebrating victory. You're participating in something ambiguous. The Remembrance bosses, the optional major fights, are legitimately among the hardest encounters in gaming. Scadutree Avatar, Commander Gaius, Baal the Dread, these aren't gimmick fights, they're pure skill checks. Some require specific strategies, some reward creativity. All of them demand absolute focus. What's interesting is that community speedrunners immediately started tackling impossible challenge runs. One notable speedrunner issued a $10,000 bounty for completing the entire DLC at Rune Level 1 with restricted Scadutree Blessing upgrades. The challenge community embraced Shadow of the Erdtree not just as a great game, but as a design template for what difficulty can look like when executed perfectly.
Visually, Shadow of the Erdtree is breathtaking. The Realm of Shadow is this inverse mirror of the lands between. Darker, more oppressive, visually distinct from every area in the base game. The Scadutree itself is gorgeous, this twisted tree of shadow that's the opposite of the golden Erdtree. Enemy designs are creative, new weapons look stunning. However, and this is a significant caveat, the DLC has substantial PC performance issues. The base game already had performance complaints on PC, but Shadow of the Erdtree makes it worse. Players with RTX 4080 GPUs reported frame rates dropping to 40-50 FPS in certain areas. Micro-stuttering, frame pacing issues, and inconsistent performance plague many configurations. FromSoftware acknowledged the performance issues, but never released comprehensive fixes. Some patches improved stability slightly, but the fundamental performance problems persisted even into 2026. Console versions perform adequately, roughly the same as the base game, but PC remains a concern for anyone expecting 60 FPS stability. This is genuinely disappointing given the DLC's critical acclaim. The game still has a 60 FPS cap on all platforms and no ultra-wide support, which feels outdated for a 2024 release. These technical limitations don't destroy the experience, the art direction compensates, but they're frustrating given FromSoftware's resources.
Is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree worth playing in 2026? Absolutely, without hesitation. It's one of the greatest expansions ever made, and it's not just for hardcore FromSoftware fans. If you love the base game, Shadow of the Erdtree deepens everything about it. The requirements are reasonable. You need to have beaten Radahan and Mog to access the DLC. You need to be somewhere around level 120-150 for comfort, though the Scadutree Blessing system lets you adjust difficulty to your level. If you're willing to engage with the content thoughtfully, you'll have one of the best gaming experiences possible. The caveats are worth noting. The PC performance issues are legitimate. If you're a PC player, research your specific hardware before purchasing. The difficulty, while fair, is substantially harder than the base game. If you struggled with Millennia, Shadow of the Erdtree will absolutely challenge you. These aren't deal breakers, they're just context. In 2026, Shadow of the Erdtree stands as FromSoftware's artistic peak. The base game was a phenomenon, but Shadow of the Erdtree is a complete artistic statement. It refines the formula, deepens the narrative, and creates boss fights that will be studied in game design circles for decades. The most remarkable thing, FromSoftware announced this as the only expansion. No future DLC, no post-launch roadmap. This is it. Everything they wanted to say about Elden Ring, they said in Shadow of the Erdtree. That kind of finality, where the developer pours everything into a single package rather than stretching it across years, creates something special. Thanks for watching. If you've played Shadow of the Erdtree, let me know in the comments which boss destroyed you the most. Like this video if you appreciate final chapters done right, subscribe for more deep dives into gaming's finest moments, and I'll see you next time.